I was exhausted from working at the diner, while those girls were green with envy over my job. But inappropriate staring, what do you think? Questioned Kristen, referring to the female staff uniform. It reminded Marcy of the type of outfit Cinderella wore when she cleaned her step-mother's house. Only it was all burgundy, clean, and smelled like laundry detergent. Not to mention modest. The top part covered all of her chest and made her boobs look almost non-existent. The dress went past her knees and it was not tight in the least. So much for showing off her curves to any cute guy that came in. In my opinion. Marcy tried to think of the right words to say. Kristen winced. I know they're rather plain. You can blame the men who took part in the making of this place. Marcy checked herself out in the mirror again. Why couldn't she have bigger hips like Kristen? You could tell she had curves in her uniform. At least she was glad she wore flats to school today. It went perfect with the dress. Then again, she mostly wore flats because in her last school good-looking guys tended to be shorter than her. She truly hit the jackpot when she found the cult boys to be much taller than the average person. Are you sure you don't want to train me in some stuff? I've never been a waitress before. I think you'll do pretty good. Kristen reassured, exiting the staff room. Marcy followed after, but when she saw the immense amount of customers that met her outside, she was almost blown away. Most of them of which were girls. And because of the amount of girls, guys started to enter as well. Phew, talk about good business. Marcy mumbled. She wondered how good the food must be if this many customers came here on a school day. They'll start taking orders on the right side, and you can take orders on the left. Kristen ordered, giving her a notepad and pen. Write them down here along with the table number so as not to get confused. Then take them to the cook. She pointed to an area opposite the front door of the diner where chefs cooked. Good luck. Kristen pat her shoulder and went on her way, taking things in stride. Marcy went to the nearest table and began her job. Hi, I'm Marcy. May I take your order? The girls knew exactly what they wanted, meaning she didn't have to do much waiting. She gave it to the chef and restarted the process. It was a bit harder when she had to return the orders to the customers, but this was when Kristen's advice came into place. The chef's cooked food came with the order note next to it, so she knew which table to give it to. As Marcy continued to take orders, she pondered why exactly there were so many girls. One thing she knew for sure was, when there were a bunch of girls, there was a hot guy, and she was dying to know who it was. Her prayers were answered when Jaden stepped into the diner. What surprised her the most, however, was when he entered the staff room. He worked here, and the day keeps getting better. With new-found enthusiasm, she returned orders to the customers, giving a genuine smile this time. Turns out Jaden was a chef. Could the boy get any cuter? 3 hours later and various tables later with girls ordering despite the new flow of customers, Marcy found herself become exhausted. From the corner of her eye she could see Kristen work with the same energy she had when she first started. Marcy was used to getting home and watching TV. She wasn't one to prance around the house all day for fun. The only time she sweat was when she occasionally tried to copy the moves of belly dancers on YouTube. She knew her future husband would thank her for that. The only bright side of this was when she took orders to the chef, where she caught a glimpse of Jade uncooking in the background. Not to mention she got to meet a few new people. Even so, she still couldn't help but feel relieved her shift was over in half. There was a slight hush in the air when the diner door opened again. Goodness, did these people not get the place was full? Scanning the tables, she decided to next serve an 8-year-old girl sitting at a table alone, impatiently playing with the table utensils. She frequently glanced at the door before returning to her previous habit. Marcy thought it best to get her a drink so as not to make her look so awkward. Many girls were staring at her and whispering. Couldn't they do anything better than gossip about a little girl? But even she couldn't deny the strangeness. Hi, I'm Marcy. May I take your order? The little girl smiled pleasantly. My name is Haley. I want milk and chocolate chip cookies, please. No, you don't, interrupted a voice. Finding it familiar, Marcy turned and was faced with James. No cookies past 8, You get to hyper. 𝐾𝐿, she declared, eyes wide. Besides, you were late again. No end of discussion. Hey Mercy, he finally greeted, acknowledging her with smile. He sat down beside Hayley, and that's when she noticed the resemblance. No doubt they were siblings. Now she understood why girls kept staring at her. She's James' sister, of course. She also didn't fail to notice James' usage of her name. To ask, or not to ask? That is the question. Since milk and cookies are off, what would you guys like to order? Mercy wrote the new order on her thinning notepad. Coronas. They probably had to buy a new set every weekend. Coming right up. Before giving it to the chefs, Mercy wrote down another table's order so as not to walk so often. Gosh, she could feel tomorrow's cramps already. On her way to returning James' order, she caught Kristen and James constantly cast glances at each other when they thought the other wasn't looking. Sometimes they looked at the same time, and she had to stop herself from laughing because their embarrassed expressions were too funny. Could they be more obvious? James definitely had nothing to worry about earlier. Order has arrived. She placed down their order, and before leaving winked at Hayley, who once she looked at the little message written on her napkin beamed at happiness. Despite James' reluctance to give his young sister cookies, Mercy decided she would hide some cookies underneath a couple of napkins on Hayley's plate. She had written cookies to warn her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It was probably useless, seeing as her brother was more preoccupied in staring at his girlfriend and paying attention to her. Mercy could tell Hayley knew this as well, for she was openly eating a cookie and James' eyes didn't fail to follow Kristen. Mercy dragged her feet to the next table. Would this ever end? Hi, Mercy. May I take your order? There were so many girls here she failed to realize she actually knew the people in the table already. It was the girls from her lunch table, which to her dislike had Emily included as well. Oh, hey guys. You work here? Emily asked, distaste jumping at every syllable. I couldn't say no when Kristen asked me. It's fun here. Got to meet some new people. But let me tell you, it's exhausting. Mercy groaned, wiping sweat off her forehead with the back of her hand. Well, Kristen asked you. Emma asked. A lot of people apply to work here, but it's very hard to get in. You're so lucky, expressed Lucy. The table was in awe, but the envy that lied underneath was evident. Whatever, just get us a number 5 and some ginger ale, ordered Emily, feigning disinterest. You get an F acting sweetheart. Mercy took more orders and continued her routine. Thankfully, one of the staff members flipped the open sign to closed and began to usher customers who finished eating out. Kristen happened to finish her side quickly and was on Mercy's to help her finish up. Of course the purple-eyed girl knew better, and that truly Kristen wanted to be closer to her man. Mercy had to work a bit past her shift waiting for customers to leave. But once they were finally gone aside from James, Hayley and the other workers, she rushed to the nearest booth, closed her eyes, and laid down to rest. You might want to stand up. I don't think you would like food falling on your face. Mercy peeked to find Jaden's figure above her, a washcloth at hand. Apparently he was wiping the tables clean. His voice was lifeless, but it was sad, completely different from Jordan's vibrant tone. Sure. His eyes followed her as she stood from the booth, and to Mercy's confusion lowered. No, not to her chest, but to a woman's most private area. Weirdest thing was, it wasn't with any sexual intent. She rubbed her arms, feeling slightly uncomfortable. The bells rang at the opening of the door, swaying her attention. In walked Sebastian's intimidating figure. He greeted Kristen and James with a nod, but when his eyes fell on her, he raised an eyebrow, as if to say, what the hell are you doing here? Hey Sebastian, not gonna say hi? Mercy greeted jokingly. Sebastian remained emotionless, and instead of answering her continued into a room she wasn't familiarized with. Okay, you can do that too, she called after him, waving him off. She was too exhausted to even attempt making conversation with that ice of a man. When her attention returned to Jaden, she was surprised to find him still staring. What was wrong with the kid? Didn't he know it was rude to stare at a woman's private? With her finger, Mercy lifted his chin. Would you like to tell me what's so amazing about 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻? His still face broke into a smile. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me. At this Mercy smirked. Try me. Jaden chuckled, his smile widening. Blessed. He has a nice smile. I would, but the others would kill me. Mercy scrunched her eyebrows, not understanding. Before she could ask for an explanation, Kristen called her. Immerse. You can go change now. Feeling too tired, she put her conversation with Jaden at the back of her head. All she wanted was a warm shower and sleep. 9 eaves dropping. Mercy sighed with content when she landed on her bed, freshly showered and in her favorite sleeping attire consisting of booty shorts and a white tank. The gentle breeze that entered through her window was comforting, and did all the more in helping her sleep. She was so happy with the day's events. So far she had succeeded in making friends with the cult boys, and getting a job at the diner, which she earlier found out was very hard to get into. Thinking of it, she wondered why Kristen had asked her to apply for the job while many others had offered to work there. Not just that, but Kristen and her were the only waitresses there. How in the world had she managed all those customers by herself? And why didn't she offer more help? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She would never outright ask her that. She felt rather privileged to be the only girl in school who managed to snag the job, and she'd like to keep it that way. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mercy did want to know what Jaden was thinking while he stared at her private region. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me. The others would kill me. The conversation had been very strange. She briefly wondered if she should ask him about it tomorrow, but instantly dismissed it, as curious as she was to find out. Her and Jaden simply weren't close enough to get a confession out of him. He, along with the other boys, had to get comfortable around her first. Gazing at the moon, her thoughts went to last night, and the humongous wolf she had seen, Cinnamon, as she had so fondly named him. Would he be out there tonight? She wanted to go visit him. And if she was completely truthful with herself, she even admitted to ponder about James' words in the library. Could those mythical creatures really exist? One way to find out. She attempted to sit up on her bed, but found herself plopped down afterward. Today had really taken a toll on her. She hoped she'd get used to the excessive work soon and be as fluent as Kristen in her job. Slowly, she felt herself drifting into sleep. With open arms she welcomed it. 𝐿𝐷𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐷. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mercy shot up from her bed, her heart thumping rapidly against her chest from the sudden awake. Her eyes slowly began to focus on the figure standing at the edge of her bed. Lydia. She was smiling pleasantly, but Mercy knew better from the devilish gleam in her violet eyes. Breakfast is ready, and school starts in 30 minutes. She finished, giving a satisfied smirk. Had it not been for the soreness yesterday's work brought upon her, she would have jumped on her sister the moment she had even seen her. Clearly she had woken her up now on purpose, making it impossible to get to school on time. Why didn't you wake me earlier? Brett, Mercy hissed, lifting the covers from her phone. She fought herself from crawling back to the warmer goodness. Dark Falls was definitely chillier than what she was used to. I kind of just, Lydia replied, shrugging innocently as she exited out of her room. Forgot my ass. Mercy grumbled, finally getting off her mattress. She winced at the pain her weight brought to her thighs, but school was much too enjoyable to worry about things like this. She quickly stretched before grabbing her towel and putting on her slippers. The cold tile floor did nothing but encourage her to jump back into the comforts of her warm bed. After trudging to the bathroom, she almost felt like dying on the spot when she heard the shower running. She knocked loudly on the door. Yes, rang the muffled voice of her mother. Rather than dying, she'd prefer shooting herself on the head. Her father was quick when showering. Her mother, on the other hand, hurry up, Mom. I'm late to school. Mercy cried, and after the words left her lips she wondered why her mother hadn't bothered to wake her up either. It'll take just a minute. In rinsing, Mercy slammed her head against the door in frustration, and after waiting a few seconds she knocked again. Oh my goodness. This is so frustrating. I've been waiting over 27 hours. She groaned. She was tired. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And woke up late for school. Yet her mother decided this was the best time to last Tion's showering. The silence that ensued after made Mercy sigh in relief. You're such a drama queen. Her mother laughed, opening the bathroom door. I lasted nearly 5 seconds. Planting a kiss on her forehead, Mercy smiled. She loved it when her mother kissed her there. It felt so loving. Finally, she rushed into the bathroom and quickly began to take the clothes off her figure, only then realizing she should have taken them off in her room. Now she had to carry all the stuff back. Could this morning get any better? 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐰 mozzarella sticks or chicken nuggets. Mercy cursed. Why hadn't the school cafe serve a little of both? She grudgingly picked the mozzarella before slowly sliding her tray to the lunch lady and paying up her food. Her legs stung with every step she took, reminding her of yesterday's hard workout. Goodness, she really hadn't been in shape. Last time she exercised was too long ago to remember, and last year when she took the mile run she got a solid 20 minutes. Needless to say, she was the last one. Wow, you look beat, expressed Emma, giving her a once-over. I'm not one for exercise. Yesterday took a toll on me, Mercy admitted, taking a seat next to her friend. Was the diner too much for you? I suggest you quit and leave the spot for someone who can handle it, added Emily, taking a furious bite off her nugget. Mercy smirked. It was clear the girl was envious she had gotten the prize job while she was stuck cult-less. Even if Emily had the job, she doubted she'd cut any of the guys' attention. Jealousy is unbecoming, sweetheart. The table snickered, making Emily blush furiously and return to her food. Emma cleared her throat. She did have a point, though. It did look like too many customers for 2 people. You should tell Kristen to hire another person. You know, to ease it up on you. Mercy chewed on her mozzarella stick. She didn't want to come off as a greedy chick, but she really didn't like the idea of sharing the diner with someone else from school. It made her feel special to be the only schoolgirl working there while others have had countless opportunities to snag it. I think you'll get used to it, but you'll give Kristen a hint today after school. If anything, you'll be the first to know. The table beamed at her response. Even Emily, who after she realized she was showing her excitement failed miserably to hide it. Excellent. You're the best, Emma exclaimed, throwing her into an affection hug that surprised her. Mercy began to feel guilty. She'd only said they'd get them off her back. Sure, as if she'd honestly give Kristen the suggestion. But staring at them now, she came to realize they only wanted to be a part of the cult just as much as she did. Maybe she would tell Kristen for their sakes. Besides, she didn't consider them competition when it came to getting Sebastian. At least, she hoped so. 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐻, please go to the bathroom. As expected, her study hall teacher nearly waved her off, too busy reading his porno book to care where his students went, which served her just as well, because it made it all the easier to leave this place and wander wherever she wanted. She'd make it a daily thing, and perhaps in one of her class escapades she'd see one of the cult boys wandering the hallways, preferably Sebastian. It seemed her wish to see Sebastian was answered, because just as she was about to rise the staircase she caught a glimpse of his figure. To her distaste he walked alone, but with beautiful Keisha. They were speaking in low tones, and before they could spot her, Mercy hid behind the staircase to overhear their conversation. Her head peeked so slightly to give you. We've spoken of this before. You should already know my answer. Keisha sighed as her gaze fell to the floor. Disappointed in just thinking about what's best for you and everyone else. Sebastian lifted her chin with his finger, forcing her to meet his eyes. Massey recalled seeing men do that in romance movies. Ed almost threw the pencil in her back pocket right at them to stop their moment. Let me worry about that. 𝐿𝐼's breath caught when she leaned in to kiss him, but before her lips could touch his he held her shoulders firm and gave her a pointed look. No, Keisha. Keisha was clearly wounded. You're only hurting yourself, she snapped. Sebastian shook his head, disagreeing. I'm not. Then he walked away, thankfully not in 𝐿𝐼's direction. When he left, Keisha remained frozen, not one to lose an opportunity. Massey was about to climb the stairs when Keisha's dark blue eyes snapped her way. It was so sudden Massey fought a cry from escaping her lips. Little girls shouldn't be spying on things that don't concern them. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐳 𝐑𝐞𝐝𝐬. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐧 enthusiasm. Good thing I'm not a little girl. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐳. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐧 enthusiasm. To her surprise, Keisha didn't reply. A stream of emotions passed by her face, too many for Massey to take count of, but one of them was prominent above all. It was anger, and it was directed towards her. Massey proceeded to the stairs and ended up finding herself in the library. To her disappointment, James wasn't here, nor anyone else of interest. It was actually rather vacant, with a total of 4 or so students milling about, all minding their own business. She went behind a shelf and ran her fingers through the binds of the books, just to have something touch. Thinking of Sebastian, she wondered why 𝐻D pushed Keisha away. The girl was beautiful, no doubt about it, and although it made her glad to know he was taken with her looks, it also worried her. What did it take to have Sebastian pierce full head over heels for you? She remembered what the girls in lunch had told her before, how Sebastian best never had a girlfriend in the school, nor flirted with anyone before. It was obvious he constantly pushed girls away from his life. Not one to want to live life, and much to her ego's inflation. That included her. She didn't ponder too much about that though. She was confident sooner or later he would end up liking her. Every boy did. Never once had Massey been rejected. She was often complimented of her beauty and told she had an engaging personality. All Sebastian needed some loving. Someone to kiss his forehead the way her mother did that very morning to soften him up. And she was the perfect one for the job. Sighing, she directed her attention to the library itself, remembering what James had told her about the Dark Falls area. After reaching the area full of Dark Falls history, she caught sight of the diary shed picked up the last time she was here with James. Janetta's diary. Its faded red coloring did nothing to help it blend in with the other novels. Dear Diary, a month living in this town and I feel it gets weirder by the hour, and sometime by the second. 2 boys in school, Kyle and Eric, seem to be following me. No, trust me, it's not my imagination. Granted, they're positively gorgeous, but it's scary. They're scary. I get the feeling they want something from me. I know for a fact because they've never paid this much attention to any other student in school until I came around. All the girls hate me, yet they try hard to befriend me, hoping they'll get a sprinkle of my so-called luck. Behind my back they spread rumors saying the only reason I get their attention is because I give them my bed. It's clear the rumors reached adult ears as well. The lady next door gave me a book on infant care. Oh, you can only imagine the embarrassment I felt when I took the book upon her insistence. I'm not sure what I should do. Confront them. Pretend I don't notice. It's been going on for 2 weeks. I don't think I can handle this anymore, scared as I am. I think I'll go up to them after school tomorrow. Wish me luck. My first conversation with the 2 hottest guys in school. Ugh, there's Mom calling. She must be angry. She has a habit of calling me Jeanette when she's angry, even though she clearly knows I detest it. It sounds so old-fashioned. To me it does. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐿𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. See you tomorrow, if that even makes sense. Jean 10 vague advice. If Marcy thought yesterday had been difficult serving all these customers, it must have been 10 times worse today, because extra customers plus today saw in a sequel to My Body is Screaming. Meanwhile, Kristen was well off serving at an amazing pace with a pleasant smile constantly on her face. How did the woman handle it? The back and forth walking, carrying heavy loads of food to customers, balancing for all more glasses of liquids on a tray while power walking. The chick was born to be a waitress. Why had she felt lucky to work here again? Ding. Oh, that's why. Sebastian entered the diner in his devastating handsomeness, grabbing the attention of every single girl and boy in the packed room. The boys couldn't help but stare and wonder why on earth had a man been made so attractive, and they were unlucky that it couldn't have been them. The girls gazed at him with a mixture of lust. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐿𝐬 𝐑𝐞𝐝𝐿 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And want. Massey wondered what he was doing there so early. Yesterday 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐿𝐬 when her shift ended, but now 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐿𝐬 at the diner's busiest hour. When he entered the changing room, Massey almost leapt with delight. Yes, Sebastian worked here. To stop herself from acting like a total lame as were a few girls in the diner, she distracted herself by taking orders. What would you like to order? There were 2 girls and 1 guy. If there was one thing she liked about having tons of customers, is that by the time she was able to get to them, they've had more than enough time to choose their order. As she wrote on her pad, Marcy could sense the guy staring at her eyes, probably wondering if its purple hue was natural or not. Are those your natural eyes? He finally asked. Yes, well, they're gorgeous, he said in awe. Massey smiled thankfully. When she continued to the next table, she heard the girl beside him say, "They're fake, Brian. No one has purple eyes, idiot," smacking him on the arm. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐿𝐬 Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What if they're fake? They're the most real-looking contacts I've ever seen. Massey ignored the girl's comment. That was the usual feedback she received when she truthfully told them they were hers. Or how dumbfounded they were when they look at it up close and see no indication of contacts. As abnormal as they were, Massey absolutely loved them. There was no one outside of her family whom she had ever seen with purple eyes. A few moments later, Sebastian walked out with a male version of the uniform, which didn't fail at outlining his good figure. Gosh, why couldn't her uniform complement her shape? She looked so flat. Like her. He began to take orders from customers, and she didn't miss how he purposely went to tables with the least amount of girls situated. Massey wondered why Sebastian was so anti-female. He didn't hate them, but he made an effort to avoid them as much as possible. Sebastian's contribution helped levitate some of the pain she received from serving all those customers. The trays were crazy heavy, and she didn't have strong muscles per se. As time passed, she noticed his increasing annoyance towards the girl customers. Even Marcy had to admit, if she were in his position, she would have been peeved too. They would take a long time to pick an order, although she could see them peek at his face from the corner of the large menu. Sebastian wasn't oblivious. He noticed too. She could tell by the slight twitch in his left eyelid. To her disappointment, Sebastian and her didn't have much communication, though she should have expected that, seeing as she was working. But still, couldn't he have at least turned his eye in her direction for a moment or two? Maybe then she could have something to work with and hope he thought she was cute, even in that uncomplanta in uniform. But of course Sebastian just had to mind his own business and pay no mind to her. So she gave up the accidental slight bumps when she passed by him in the crowded diner, or the occasional looks in his direction. The boy just didn't give any sign of interest whatsoever. How depressing. Massey was beautiful and she knew it. Drive at him and his stupid indifference. But at least no girl had his attention, and that soothed her momentarily. With these thoughts in mind, you could only imagine her surprise when she felt large. Strong hand grasped her forearm as she was about to pick the 2 trays of food Jaden prepared. Her pleasant smile beautifully hid the shock she felt inside. Sebastian had acknowledged her presence. Finally, his golden eyes made contact with hers before he released his warm hold. I was hoping we could make a compromise. Stepping fully in front of her, it was in this position where she realized how truly large Sebastian was. She felt petite. Ugh, could the man be any more tempting? She had a thing for big men. Sure. I thought it'd be best if you took orders from customers and gave them to Jaden as you usually do. But you'll have the responsibility of carrying the trays to the customers and taking them back. 𝐷𝐻𝐼's eyes shone at the offer. No more would she have to carry those heavy trays. Her aunts would finally have the rest they deserve. That would be perfect. She noticed Sebastian's shoulders relax, and it was then she analyzed he was only doing this because it avoided any chit-chat with the ladies. The moment he carried their trays over, he could be on his merry way. Mercy didn't care. Regardless, he was unconsciously helping her out too. Sebastian picked the trays beside her with ease and began carrying them to its designated table, taking this as her cue to begin her part of the agreement. She began taking orders, starting at a table full of familiar friends. "Hey, what you guys ordering?" "Leave. We're not ready," said Immerse. "So, amazing presents." Mercy rolled her eyes, while Emma giggled. "Ignore her, Mars. It's just we want Sebastian to take our order," she clarified, eyeing the man with clear interest. "Don't bother. He decided it'd be best if I took orders." There were around a disappointed AWWWS, in which this time Mercy laughed. "On the bright side, he'll bring and take your food," she added. Lucy's pout stayed intact. "Still, I was planning on asking him what he thought I should choose." Emma nodded. "Me too. By the way, did you ask Kristen about getting extra workers here?" Her eyes with new-found enthusiasm. "No, not yet," Mercy answered truthfully. "I'm going to ask her after work. So tomorrow by lunch you'll know." The girls smiled in response. Even Emily. "Thanks, Mars. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐼. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Any who will have the same as yesterday, number 5 and ginger ale." Mercy nodded. "Coming your way." After taking another table's order, she sent them Jaden's way, feeling 10 times more relieved after Sebastian's offer. Hopefully he would stick to this for the rest of her diner working career. Just as she was about to ask a couple what they wanted, petite arms wrapped around her waist, making her squeak in surprise. A smile adorned her lips when she realized it was Haley, James' adorable little sister. "Hey, sweetheart," Mercy greeted, returning her hug. Haley gave her a wide smile. "Can you sit with me? My brother's not here yet, and I don't want to sit alone." Looking around the crowded diner, Mercy felt a pang of sympathy for the girl. It must be frightening having strangers constantly look at you. The girl was too young to understand it was because if she had a strong connection to the cult. "Sorry. As much as I'd love to sit with you, I have to work." Haley's face instantly dropped. Seeing this, Mercy quickly added, "But you can be my special helper." "To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐼. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." She chirped. "To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐻𝐼. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "This will be your job. You'll walk with me from table to table helping me take orders. Once we have the table's order, you take them over there and give them to Jaden." Mercy pointed to the area where Jaden and his group of chefs worked. "Sounds good." Haley nodded reverently, taking all the information in. Mercy laughed at her determined expression. In the end, Haley ended up being quite useful, because Mercy didn't have to waste time carrying orders to Jaden. She could get to customers rapidly. Haley was having fun skipping around the diner whenever she went to Jaden, especially once Mercy promised her cookies. A good hour passed, and Mercy admired how diligently Haley continued with her job. The girl had been skipping none, stop, and she had yet to lose her breath or break a sweat, which served her just as well, because her muscles got more rest than she anticipated. James eventually came, to which by that time the sign had recently been flipped to closed. Seeing as it was getting late and customers were still entering, "You're late," Haley accused, pointing an angry finger. Massey snickered at the girl's expression, into which James blushed red. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿. Sorry, Haley. A situation held me back from coming earlier. Haley crossed her arms. Well, you'll just have to sit alone now. James raised a brow. And why is that? Haley slipped an arm around Massey's waist. Because I'm working. Massey needs me to send the papers to Jaden, she clarified, her previous determined expression returning. James laughed as Massey had earlier. It truly was a comical face. James looked up at Massey with a smile, arms raised in defense. Then I won't stop you ladies from doing what you got to do. He retreated to a booth nearby, whereas yesterday him and Kristen began to sneak looks at each other. Massey sighed. Bye, Mass. See you in school tomorrow, said Emma, coming up to her to give her a farewell hug. And don't forget to ask Kristen about adding more workers, she added in a whisper. Massey shook her head at the girl's insistence. Don't worry. I got you, she assured. After hugging the rest of the girls aside from Emily, she quickly returned to her job now that there were fewer customers to get to. Eventually the diner was empty, and after giving Haley a cookie without Jane's knowledge, of course, Massey laid on one of the booths for a minor rest. She began thinking of how she would present the idea of more workers to Kristen. Having worked here for today's, Massey decided she didn't care if they bothered her about presenting the thought to Kristen. If they wanted to bust their asses off working, then by all means go ahead. As she had experienced today, Sebastian wouldn't pay them any more attention than he did in school. Jaden was busy cooking the food, and if they were immoral enough to go after James, well, he had a girlfriend and he came so late they'd barely have time for some nice flirting. Sure, as if his love for Kristen would allow any of that. Is this going to be a daily thing? Massey's eyes fluttered open. She had forgotten Jaden cleaned the tables after work. Noticing the direction of his gaze, she lifted his chin as she had yesterday. I don't know. Am I going to deal with this every day? He blushed red. I honestly don't know. But you'll try not to stare anymore. Good. Because how would you feel if I stare at you like this? Massey made a pointed look to his pants, but after a few moments looked away, this time her cheeks turning red. She was one to blush. Then again, she was one to look at a specific place on a guy's pants unless it was to check out his butt. Jaden chuckled, knowing it had made her more nervous than it had him. I'm not sure how it'd feel, but I promise, my stares are out of sincerity, not lust. So now you're saying I'm not physically attractive? Massey accused, purposely acting offended, but Jaden caught the laughter in her eyes. Of course not. You are a pretty lady, he complimented. I would hope so. Massey stood and made leeway for him to clean the table. It's all yours. Then she went into the changing room to rid herself of the plain uniform. How did you like your second day? Asked Kristen, entering the room and changing as well. Pretty good. Less iron than yesterday. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐿 𝐸𝐻𝐿. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐰. Thanks to the Cinderella dress, I didn't get any numbers from good-looking customers. Kristen laughed. Don't sweat it, Mass. Even in that uniform you'd impress any guy I know. Massey snorted, thinking of Sebastian. I highly doubt it. No, seriously. Kristen insisted. Massey gave her a glance, disbelieving. He'll pretend I believe that. Anyway, I need to tell you something. Kristen's face brightened. That funny? I need to tell you something too. Massey was planning on telling her to add more workers, but she was more excited about Kristen's news. You first. Kristen's face immediately became serious. Don't bother coming to work tomorrow. You're fired. 𝐸's eyes widened into saucers. Her mouth instantly dropped. Her fired. But it was only her second day. She thought of anything she could have done wrong and thought up a million things. Kristen most likely thought her too slow of a worker. Or not a good worker at all. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Sebastian and Haley did do most of the work today. Kristen's features broke into a laugh. Just kidding. Mercy sighed in relief. And soon enough joined Kristen. Well, I knew you thought I was too amazing to get rid of. She don't. Kristen smiled. You are great. Truth is I need you to do me a huge favor. Mercy shrugged. Sure. Name it. Something has come up where no one will be home tomorrow to take care of Haley. James is freaking out because he knows his sister is very picky and tends to scare off the other babysitters. But for some reason, she has found an attachment to you, so I was hoping you could take care of her tomorrow. A desperate look filling her features. It is Friday, so you won't have to worry about sleeping late. And I'll pay you, and you can have any food or drink in the house. There's cable. Kristen calmed down. I'll do it, Mercy said, interrupting her rapid flow of words. It was obvious to her Kristen was in dire need of a babysitter, and Mercy was willing to do it. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Mercy. You don't understand what a relief it is to have you say yes. Mercy felt herself be enveloped into an intense hug. Who knew a girl like her could give such strong hold? Don't sweat it. I can't believe Haley scares the babysitters away. Haley, she's too adorable. 𝐿𝐷𝐿. You do think? She's a handful. Like I said, for some reason she likes you. Which is just my luck. Because I tend to need babysitters in short notice. And while most are willing at first, after a few hours with her fear scared off, Mercy laughed. What could a little girl like Haley possibly do? Kristen coughed. You'd be surprised. For tomorrow just come to the diner as usual after school and Jordan will give you a ride from here. Bring a bag with any necessities you'll need, because we tend to come back late, like around 1 to 3 in the morning. So in case you want to take a shower or something you'll have clothes. Whoa, 3 in the morning. Kristen's eyes widened in panic. Oh no. Your mom doesn't let you out that late, does she? I keep forgetting most parents want their kids home by 11. Trust me, my mom could care less. I've been out past that, she assured, recalling the occasions where she'd come from parties near 6 a.m. I was just surprised you'd all be out so late. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Kristen sighed in relief. Well, the place we're going to is far, and it doesn't help we're leaving late either. True that. I guess I'll bring my pajamas then. Will anyone else be in the house? No, just you and Haley. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. See you after school then. Mercy exited the room and waited near a window for her ride to come. Usually it was her mom, as her dad was the type to leave the house again once he got home from work. It was a full moon. Its glow kissed the trees as if they were her children, giving them a majestic appeal. Sebastian's figure suddenly stopped near her. He was reviewing a staple sheet of paper. Hey handsome, she greeted flirtatiously. Without looking up he addressed her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His deep voice sent waves down her spine. Sebastian acknowledged her with a nod and continued on his way. Mercy was about to pout in disappointment when suddenly he stopped. Swiveling on his heel he watched her. With half of his face shadowed on this angle he looked roguishly handsome. Thank you for helping me today. Mercy beamed. You're welcome. Wanting more conversation, she said. It's such an ice night out, isn't it? Perfect for walking. A nice night equated to being safe. It might just be her imagination. But it sounded like he was warning her. Dark Falls is a very safe town. I've taken a stroll late at night and nothing's happened to me. His eyes glinted with something feral. Be careful. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. You might find that what you want may not always be what you asked for. Then, without waiting for a response, he left. Mercy pouted, semi-disappointed, but at least he had said her name, and not completely dismiss her when 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝 started conversation. That meant he didn't mind talking to her. Right. She wondered what he meant by saying those things. It was so vague she didn't know what to make of it. Either way, she began to think that as days passed she was having more strings that connected her to the cult. And this made her very happy. 11. Cinnamon. After taking a shower, Mercy dressed in the comfortable attire of long pajama pants and a tank top. The moment she came home, she informed her mom of the babysitting job she was taking up tomorrow. As expected, her mother shrugged and said, "Sure." Mercy loved the trust her mother gave her, and really, she had no reason not to. She was 18 and still a virgin, which based on certain schools she's been to is a humongous feat. She's never taken drugs, and although she had a little love for alcohol, she never got so drunk she made a fool of herself. Most of the bad reports she received were from school, and none because she was failing. Only the usual overly talkative and disruptive behavior. But Mercy always convinced her mom it was their way of saying she actively participated. After putting on some comfortable shoes, Mercy silently descended the stairs and snuck out through the back door near the kitchen. Once outside, she smiled, giddy with excitement. She was planning on going to the park again in hopes of seeing Cinnamon. As before, the streets were eerily quiet and solitary, completely different from any previous town she'd been to, where there were always cars driving regardless of it being the middle of the night. When she reached the park, she immediately saw his large figure, laying at the very edge of the park, only a few steps from the forest. Upon seeing her near, Cinnamon stood tall and powerful on his forehinds, his amber eyes watching. "Miss me?" Laying beside him, he stared at her. "None. I thought as much." When he remained standing, Mercy pat his side. "Sit down. You're blocking the view of the moon." The wolf silently complied and snuggled near her form, bringing a comforting warmth. Mercy smiled. "Guess what? I got a job at the famous Dark Falls diner. Every girl in school is impressed, and crazy jealous seeing as all the hot guys in school work there, including my crush." The wolf barked, as if asking who. "Sebastian. You have to see him, CIN. 𝐿𝐷𝐞𝐝, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And big. Just my type." The wolf made the same comical noise he had last time she had come and busted her ass on the ground, which sounded suspiciously akin to laughter. Mercy cupped her hands around his snout, forcing him to face her. Her eyes narrowed. "That's not funny." Cinnamon bared his teeth, releasing her hold. Giving up, she opted to examine his canines. "These are some big poppers," she murmured, skimming her index finger past the top row. She could only imagine the damage his teeth could do. The thought of Cinnamon being part human crossed her mind as her fingers finished inspecting. She's been spending time with a wild animal who has had countless opportunities to harm her, and yet here she was, alive and well with no bites, scratches or scars. Her eyes locked with his as the idea ran through her head, and to be quite honest, she didn't think it was too unrealistic. Cinnamon put his head on her chest. She caressed his fur, feeling the thick, dry texture. "Someone needs to use conditioner." He gave an annoyed growl. She only laughed. "I have bad news, well, for you anyway. I won't be coming tomorrow. I'm gonna babysit Haley." After not getting a satisfactory reaction from him, Mercy huffed. "Oh, so now you're gonna pretend you don't care. Everyone misses me if they don't get a taste of me daily. It's no coincidence I'm the only girl Haley finds favorable. I'm a naturally lovable person." Cinnamon yawned and blinked at her, as if to say, "Really? Trust me, You'll definitely shed a tear at my absence. Feeling it was getting too late, Marcy stood and wiped the dirt off her pajama pants. I need to get my beauty sleep before I see Sebastian tomorrow. Bye, Cinnamon. She gave him a farewell kiss and turned to leave, but not before hearing a surprised yelp. Marcy slowed, turned, a sly smile slowly forming. Oh, my Cinnamon, don't tell me that was your first kiss. The wolf barked. Disagree. Marcy snorted. Worst liar ever. 𝐿𝐷𝐿𝐷𝐸𝑡𝑡. 5 hours and 36 minutes of sleep was not enough for Marcy Wilton. Yes, she had done the math. As fun as going to the park in the middle of the night to visit an intelligent wolf was, she was beginning to notice its cons. Firstly, she had not gotten enough sleep, so her eyes were puffy during all of first period. Thanks to the lack of cute boys in that class, she didn't mind the physical setback, but could you blame her for always wanting to look her best? Second, she had not realized she picked her dark shirt when she had dressed this morning. All she remembered thinking was how comfortable it felt. But in her stupor she didn't realize it was because it was fairly oversized. If only she hadn't been as lazy when she opened her moving box and realized her father's shirt was included with her wardrobe. Of course, she just had to put it in her drawer rather than taking the walk and carrying it to her parents' room. Lesson learned. Marcy sighed. So much for fashionable Friday. She would just have to pretend she intended to look bon my. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐽 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm, called Emma from the far end of the hallway. She was quickly making her way toward Marcy, Emily and Lucy at her tail. Upon seeing them, she almost turned and ran in another direction. She remembered the promise she had made them yesterday about asking Kristen to think about hiring them at the diner. 𝐊𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐻𝐴 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. After hearing Kristen's babysitting offer, she got completely distracted to the point when she forgot to ask her in the first place. When they finally reached her, she blurted the first thing that came to her head. I can explain. However, judging by their expressions, it appeared she would not have to. They all had wide-orbit smiles and beaming faces. I can't believe you actually did it. Emma pulled her into a tight bear hug that almost broke her ribcage. Deciding to go along with it, Marcy smiled. Yeah, always a do. Lucy jumped. 𝐊𝐴𝐺𝐸𝐻𝐴 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Oh my gosh, you're like a miracle talker. I mean, to get us all a job at the diner. I thought only one would get it. We tried so many times before. Thank you so much, Maz. Finally understanding. Marcy furrowed her brows in confusion. How did you guys? Kristen told us. Emma filled in, cutting her off. She was driving the twins' little brother to school and she saw us. That's when she told us she considered your idea and was taking all of us as her new waitresses. Thanks, Wilton, said Emily. While her appreciation was as large as the others, Marcy could still see she was thankful. Well, see you at lunch, Mars. Love you. After sharing farewells, they scurried off, walking amiably amongst each other. Marcy blinked, her mind unable to make sense of anything that just happened. It was clear the girls had gotten what they wanted, a spot at the most highly envied job of town, where it was guaranteed they would interact one way or another with the cult. There was just one problem. She didn't remember ever telling Kristen to hire them. As a matter of fact, she was sure those words never left her lips, so she never expressed this idea to Kristen. How in the world had she found out? 𝐿𝐷𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐺𝐸 want to be my partner. She rushed, getting the words out in record pace. Amazing. Marcy had to give the girl props. She had talent. The moment her pre-calculus teacher, Mr. Seaman, had told the class they could work in pairs to finish the review packet, Stacy had somehow managed to walk from the far edge of the room and come all the way to Jordan's desk before Marcy could finish putting her pen down. Marcy let her eyes fall to Stacy's legs. She must be in track. Sorry, Stacy, Jordan replied, apologetic. Marcy asked me first. Marcy stopped and I had from escaping her lips. Evidently, Jordan had no plans in working with this girl. And if she was being honest with herself, she felt pretty happy about it. Stacy's entire demeanor fell. Oh well, that's fine. Taking note of her disappointment, Jordan grabbed her hand and turned on the charm. With a face like yours, I doubt you'd finish any work. Count yourself lucky, or else I'd blame you for missing homework. Getting her a wink, he let go of her hand. Stacy blushed furiously as she babbled something that sounded suspiciously like "so right and wouldn't want that." When she finally left, Jordan turned his attention to Massey, nearing the desks together. "Would you like to remind me what I partner?" Massey questioned, laughing. Jordan chuckled along with her. "Sorry, but I've been partners with her before and it was the most awkward 20 minutes of my life. All she had done was stare at me. She didn't even try talking to me. I swear, it was like being with a blinking statue. Sounds awkward. Most guys interested in me try to talk to me, but since you're on a whole other physical level, girls must get nervous to talk to you." Jordan raised a brow. "Other level? You didn't press any guy I know." Massey huffed when she realized it was exactly what Kristen told her yesterday. Unlike yesterday, she couldn't help but think that if it were true, Sebastian would show the most sign of interest already. On the bright side, she always found a challenge fun, especially since she seldom found those. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐸 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Now that she thought about it, Sebastian has been the only guy she's ever had to work for. "Let's hope so," Massey replied wistfully. Jordan smirked. "Who are you aspiring to conquer?" Massey smiled. "You shall find out soon enough." Jordan smiled back, almost as if he knew. "I think I have a pretty good idea on who it is." She narrowed her eyes, unbelieving. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐸 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Who is it then?" Jordan threw his hands up in defense. "I'm not saying anything. That's because you don't know," she countered. "Oh yes, I do know. I just don't want to embarrass you by knowing that I know. But me knowing that you know won't embarrass me. Especially since technically I know that you know that you know his name. Not yes technically, because it's not a certain I know that I know since I didn't tell you his name. And when I say his name you'll be embarrassed because you'll definitely know that I know, so you think he who doesn't know will found out by me." They both doubled over laughing, catching Mr. Seaman's attention. "Will I have to separate you two?" "No sir," they said in unison, restraining further laughter. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐸, you have got to be kidding me. The red stain on her underwear was doing anything but. Thankfully the stain was so recent it didn't damage her pair of jeans. But she was expecting her period for at least another 3 more days. Great. More panties added to her period panty drawer. Ugh, and to think she loved these. It was one of her boy shorts, by far the most comfortable. Shaking her head, she added a couple of tampons and pads to her bag. God only knows how heavy her period was on the first day. Grabbing her necessities, Massey rushed to the bathroom to take a shower. Today she was babysitting Haley, and not even her period could dampen her mood, especially when she had the cult just happen to live together deep in the woods in a set of humongous homes. It was obvious her and Sebastian were meant to be together. There's no way destiny would bring all these coincidences at her and not expect her to marry that handsome hunk. Deciding to dress laid back, she grabbed a pair of sweats and a comfortable shirt. Taking a scrunchie, she tied her hair into a high-side ponytail and put on her pink stud earrings to complete the look. She may not look as if she came off the runway, but no one could deny she looked effortlessly beautiful. When she arrived at the Dark Falls diner, she was surprised to see Emily, and Lucy already working the tables. Although she knew they had gotten the job, she didn't expect them to start work so soon. A part of her was mad they had already taken over her territory, what she perceived to be anyway, until she remembered she was the one asked to go to the cult's estate to babysit Haley. 𝐿𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐸, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You're here. I knew you wouldn't bail. exclaimed Kristin when she viewed her at her bulging book bag. Her eyes roamed the diner. Jordan should be here any minute, I already called him. Gunny, in home, said Noah, entering the diner. Marcy remembered him as the buff one who actually interacted with people in school. Kristin gave him a hug. You at the diner. To what do I owe this miracle? I came to pick up 𝐊𝐲 as babysitter. The others are still getting ready. You know how unorganized they are. Jordan cowled and didn't make it. Suddenly, his eyes flickered to Marcy with interest. And I bet you're 𝐊𝐲's new babysitter. Marcy smiled. Impressed. Did my bag give me away? Noah winked. No, I just had a feeling. Kristin bumped his shoulder off the comment. Warning. After you, princess. Opening the diner's door with a charming smile. Kristin rolled her eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My cousin is the biggest flirt. Wow, handsome and charming, Marcy replied, feeling flattered. After being ignored by Sebastian, this felt pretty good. She patted his shoulder on her way out. You're on your merry way to impressing any girl I know. Noah chuckled and flashed her a beaming smile that surely made girls drool. That's just what I wanted to hear. 12 the pack, you're kidding. Nope. All seriousness here, affirmed Noah, making a turn. It's just, it doesn't make sense. 𝐊𝐲 is so adorable and sweet. How on earth did she manage to run away and different babysitters? They must have done something. When I was with her yesterday, she was all obedience. I'm sorry. I just can't believe she's that much of a hassle. Noah laughed. You'd be surprised what you're so cold, sweet and adorable 𝐊𝐲 puts them through. They never say it. But the wild look in their eyes and their rejection of ever babysitting her again makes it obvious they've been put through the shredder. Marcy tilted her head thoughtfully. Could all Noah said about 𝐊𝐲 really be true? From what she gathered being with her at the diner, she didn't fit into any description he said thus far. Noah smirked and gave her a challenging glaze. What? I scared you already. Marcy huffed, as if, to tell you the truth, all you've accomplished is bring my curiosity to a new level. I want to see the scary 𝐊𝐲 everyone speaks so fondly of. She replied. Noah grinned. Good. 'Cause I'd like you to stick around. Taking his words to heart, Marcy's happy mood soared even higher. Could she get any luckier than this? So far she'd managed to get acquainted with all the cult boys in school, and now she was going to their private property. Through all this content, she still wondered why they lived in a separate part of town. More specifically, why a group of people lived away from everyone else. For the time being, Marcy ignored the question and focused on the remaining day ahead. 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝. There were a jumble of houses altogether, and somehow they managed to interlock with one another and form a humongous estate. She saw why it was they lived on the solitary part of town. Surely, a building as big as this would frighten anyone, or bring curious stares similar as the one Marcy currently wore. Well, go through the main entrance, Noah directed, taking Marcy's bag and leading her to the largest door. Marcy followed in awe as she gazed at the surroundings before her. The house seemed old, but strong. It was obvious they took time into making any necessary modernization. It was surrounded by healthy blades of grass. No concrete or garage to store the cars at all, just pure Lebensraum. There were various cars about the area, but what shook her the most is how they managed to put a beautiful estate in a forest. It was due to these tall trees she was able to notice the home from afar. It looked completely majestic and added a beauty she had never seen before. Near the front of the house, flowers bloomed in vibrant colors. In her head, she complimented whoever planted them and did a great job in taking care of them. When she entered the home, she was met with loud chatter from the left side of the room, which turned out to be a large living room. The first person she spotted was Sebastian, who at the moment was giving orders to a younger male. As if sensing her, his eyes snapped to her. Marcy became mesmerized with his honey-colored eyes who bore into her with an emotion she was not familiarized with. Suddenly, the chatter and everyone around her seemed to freeze. almost as if someone had hit the pause button. A moment later and they continued talking as they had before. And if it had not been for 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻's complete confidence in her sanity, she would have thought she imagined it. As Noah and her neared the room, their voices became quieter as they gave her attention. She tried to stop the awkwardness from taking over her. Because if there's anything she hated, it was awkward moments. This is Massey, 𝐊𝐢𝐲𝐵 new babysitter. Noah introduced, pushing her in front of him. It was then she realized she had unconsciously hid behind him. Being around a bunch of people didn't scare Massey, but it was the aspect of adults in the room, adults of the cult, that made her uneasy. What if they didn't like her? Did that mean she would never be allowed to babysit 𝐊𝐲 again? "You're here," cried 𝐊𝐲. Happy, she jumped from behind a couch and came running her way to embrace her into a hug. Massey never felt so relieved as she smiled at the small girl whose arms were circling around her hips. Immediately others stood to greet her, smiles on the faces of all as they introduced themselves by name. I was a bit skeptic about a new sitter for 𝐊𝐲, but really better than I anticipated. She loves you already. I'm 𝐊𝐲 and James's mother, by the way. But you can call me Mandy. I'm so excited you agreed to babysit. It's so hard to find any nowadays, especially with a daughter like this one. Mandy gave 𝐊𝐲 a pointed look, and in return 𝐊𝐲 hid her face in the confines of Massey's shirt, giggling. "Oh, this is my husband," referring to the man with glasses beside her. The man shook her hand. "Manny, pleased to meet you." As others began to introduce themselves, Massey allowed herself to feel petite for the first time in her life. The house was filled with many men of large stature and women of high, full bodies. Her 5'8" height was only significant with the youngsters, yet judging by the size of them all, she had no doubt eventually they would catch up with their elders. "I get to see the Massey I've heard so much about," commented a woman as she walked towards her with flawless grace. She was lean and toned, with barely any curves to complement her body, yet despite not possessing the ideal image most girls crave, her face made up for it tenfold. Her eyes were liquid gold, and although they held the power to frighten anyone, they possessed a friendly warmth that rather drew one into its depths. Her heart-shaped face had soft, delicate features that would drive any man insane, and with the smile she currently wore, Massey wondered why she didn't hear anyone pouting. Surely, they had to have noticed how beautiful this woman was. If she hadn't been so busy staring at her as she neared, she probably would have felt the jealousy most girls would feel at the sight. By the time the woman reached her, Massey realized that compared to the others of the house, she was taller. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." She happened to be Massey's exact height. What surprised Massey the most, however, was when the woman engulfed her in a hug. Being one for surprises, Massey smiled and returned the woman's welcoming affections, and wondered why she bothered worrying about impressing this family, for it seemed she was doing a fantastic job already. "I do hope they said all good things. Otherwise some boys in this room would end up with some bruises," Massey joked, shaking off her foolish fears as she fell into her usual sociable self. The woman's eyes laughed with mirth. "India, Sebastian and Kristin's mother. I would introduce you to my husband, but he is busy doing some last-minute work before their trip." Massey's eyes widened at the information. She was a mother. The room laughed at her expression. Behind her, Noah whispered in her ear, "She does that all the time." She loved to hear compliments on how young she looks despite being in her early 40s. Massey glanced at her approvingly. "I hope when I'm in my 40s I look as young as you. I'm open to hearing your secret." A secret smile slipped on her face. "I assure you in time I most definitely will." Massey wondered what exactly she meant, but before she could ponder this, she was immediately bombarded with questions. "How old are you, darling?" "Turning 18 soon," asked Mandy, with clear interest. Her husband put an arm around his wife's shoulder. Massey didn't miss the warning squeeze. "Yes, in about 2 weeks. Being so new in town, you must not have a boyfriend. Am I right?" questioned Mia, her eyes hopeful. Mercy laughed, catching the gist. Nope. No boyfriend. Maya's happiness heightened. Oh well, then I must tell you, Mom. I believed Dad is looking for you. Sebastian interrupted, suddenly appearing behind his mother. It was then Mercy saw the matching eyes. He towered above his mother as he gazed at her, with meaningful eyes while hers filled with mischief. Mercy cowed and helped but think how contrasting their personalities were. Who would have thought a bubbly, warm woman would give birth to an impersonal son? Behind her she heard Noah chuckle, and Mercy wondered if perhaps Mia was thinking she would be a good match for her son. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐾𝐿𝐳 enthusiasm. Questions like those don't randomly pop out of a parent's mouth. If that were the case, maybe Mercy should feel a little rejected at his interruption. But she was only content with the fact that she clearly had his mother's approval. Mia lifted a brow, knowing what her son was doing but deciding to let him get it his way for the time being. All right, honey. I'll go to him now. Turning back to Mercy, she gave her a wink. Pleasure to meet you, Mercy. Do come over as often as you like. I'd very much like to get to know you. And Haley already shows her favor. After giving her a farewell kiss, she left with her son in tow. After she met more people of the house, including Lisa and John, the parents of the twins, she saw how they seemed to have a J-name pattern going for the children. That is, until she met the youngest son, Micah, who regardless of being younger was actually a bit taller than her. Are you sure you're A15? Mercy asked again, standing beside him. It's what it says in my birth certificate. Wanna see? Clearly proud, he defied the usual 15, old standards. I believe you. Though I gotta say, this house is like a house of giants. It's so cool, being a 𝐊𝐼𝐬𝐬 used to being the tall girl in most places. His eyes perked up at hearing her last name. Wilton, are you related to Lydia? Mercy nodded at his naming her sister. You must have met my sister. Do not think for a second her and I ain't alike in the least. Mike laughed. I definitely figured that one out. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐾𝐿𝐳 enthusiasm. I think she hates me. Feeling nice. Mercy did her sister a favor. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐾𝐿𝐳 enthusiasm. Lydia wouldn't consider it one, but in time she knew Lydia would definitely appreciate it. Urging Micah closer, she whispered, usually, that means she likes you. Micah's eyes sparkled. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐾𝐿𝐳 enthusiasm. Mercy nodded in affirmation. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐾𝐿𝐳 enthusiasm. But I didn't tell you that. Giving him a wink.